Won't be the last either.
I mean, hey, at least we caught it in the first 7 minutes.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Record of Swordforged Worlds, a unofficial Sword World podcast. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me I have two of my good brothers here in the temple. We have the man who is but a letter, good brother A.
Hello, everybody.
And the man losing arguments with himself, good brother Hydra.
Middle, stop picking your nose. We're live.
So 2 weeks ago, I ended up establishing the whole alternating between Crunch and Fluff, going into the world of the continent of Terrastier, the main setting for Sword World 2.0. As we got close to the 25th anniversary of Sword World, a push for a 2.5 edition was done. Because the 5-year rule is always going to be in effect.
Japan does love their fives.
Aside from the fact that 5 is considered a lucky number, if some sort of event is going on for some long-running franchise, you can guarantee that there will be some big thing happening on any anniversary that is a multiple of 5. Are there exceptions to this rule? Oh yeah, there's exceptions to everything. But it's something you can generally bank on. Like we saw a few days ago that big push regarding Dragon Quest media. Dragon Quest is celebrating its 40th anniversary. Sword World 2.0 came up right around the time of its 20th anniversary, and 2.5 its 25th. Which is why there's belief that something is going to happen when Sword World turns 30. Which should be in a few years. Regardless, after we delved a little bit into classes, and some of those classes we're going to be giving a lot more detail in the coming weeks and months, I wanted to shift back a little bit into the fluff side of things. And in pursuit of that, we are going to be looking at the continent that was the foundation of the 2.5 era, the current era of Sword World. That is the Land of Curses and Blessings, Alfheim. Originally it was translated as Alfheim, then Alfheim, and it's been that way ever since. I think the reason that things got translated the way they did is because of Japanese attempts to use English vowels and consonants. You have these kind of things like worm being spelled as WARM in a random episode of Kamen Rider Kabuto. And this is also the reason why certain phrases end up sticking. But now 2.5 had a few significant changes, even though the two are fairly cross-compatible with each other. One of the first ones was Fellows, which is something I'll delve into in the future. Fellows is a very unique concept, one that I can't think of many other games outside of Sword World that have done. A kind of soft AI companion that you can convert PCs into to account so that their character can still participate even if they're not there. Is the general intent. Think of a way of turning a PC into an NPC and back when they can or can't make that particular show. And it's instead of writing that NPC out like a normal one, it is written out with a kind of D6 based soft AI. One where the companion doesn't take damage but does have to recover MP the normal way. Some scenarios are even built with their own companions as a kind of equivalent to those guest NPCs you see in some video games. You know, the ones where they're part of the party, but you can't actually control them.
Kind of like neutral characters in, like, say, strategy RPGs.
Yes. Uh, but there were two big changes setting-wise that are worth noting. One of them is the introduction of trains, which whenever I bring up the whole Magitech trains thing to some people who have a more old school mindset, they are always so appalled, and I always find it completely hilarious that the idea of a Magitech themed train is such a blasphemy.
Like, isn't was it Final Fantasy 3 or 4 where you suplexed a train?
6.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody's made the suplex the train joke. I don't make that joke as much anymore, simply because there's no new way to take it anymore when everybody's done everything with it.
And let's be frank, in a world where we got the magic bikes, is a trainer really out of the question?
There is this weird thing that goes on regarding how people view fantasy, where it's this idea that there are certain things you are supposed to do for no other reason than tradition, and it's not supposed to be questioned. This is not limited to fantasy, but fantasy is a major example of it. The idea being that whole design by gospel of we do things a certain way because we've always done things a certain way.
I mean, doesn't that just lead to, like, intellectual laziness if you don't question things anymore?
Yes. And the reason why the Magitech trains were introduced in 2.5 was to broaden the traveling scope for adventuring parties, since it'd be a way for people to cross large swaths of the continent in less amounts of time. And I can understand why a game coming out of Japan would implement trains. But I feel it also makes natural sense considering what we know about Raxia. Raxia was a place that had borderline futuristic tech at one point at the height of the Magitech civilization period. And there's been a large amount of themes regarding rediscovering and reusing old tech, as well as old magic.
I mean, we need a reason to go out on adventures.
So it's only natural, especially when you have an Institute of Magic Technology, that some of that technology would be attempted to be reproduced. Much like how you've had people try and study how the Greeks and Romans built their construction work, even with a lot of the actual knowledge of it lost, just trying to reverse engineer things. And there's a part of me that wonders if, when it comes to you can't do magic trains if it's people overcompensating over the fear of being quote unquote anime. Which I realize how silly that sounds, coming from a bunch of fucking weebs as we are.
What do you mean? We're not a bunch of VTubers.
But this is a mindset. Yeah, but this was a mindset that I saw for years of treating the idea of something being anime as a boogeyman. I vividly remember seeing that kind of shit in the early to mid 2000s. And as you're
probably just agreeing because the anime was all over the place, whereas the American style animations was a bit on the decline.
No simpy because well, when you treat animation as a kid thing, when everybody else doesn't, much like how when you treat comic books as only supers, when the rest of the world doesn't, this is what you get. I don't say that to try and sound callous. It's just the facts of the matter. Like, we've seen a whole lot of people trying to figure out, okay, why is it that comic books are losing so much ground to manga? And I remember one person saying, you have variety when it comes to manga. You don't have just supers.
And also, you get more content in a manga than in a comic book.
On a dollar per page value, yes. Because I'd say an issue is probably 12 pages, maybe 20 if you're lucky, for about $11. You can get a full volume of a manga for that amount for slightly less. And that's not even getting into the giant-ass books.
Yeah. Granted, the manga's going to be in black and white, but...
Towards the original Turtles comic, and that wasn't an issue.
Fair.
Although the original Turtles comic was one giant piss take on Frank Miller.
I mean, can you blame him?
No. No, this is when Frank Miller was inescapable in the 90s. Oh, this was before he went crazy. And you know, just the dark hero concept was really overstaying its welcome around that time. We're talking about what's been referred to as the dark ages of the early 90s. But the other major thing that was introduced in Sword World 2.5 were shallow abysses. Now, it's hard to talk about shallow abysses without talking about demons. Obviously, since demonologist is a class we talked about last week, you know, the idea of demons certainly exists. Though I would say the demons in Sword World have some surface level things in common with Chaos in 40K. Not in terms of the Chaos Gods or anything like that, but in terms of coming from a different realm. Their bodies here are merely projections of their selves in that other realm. And the fact that that when they're brought in, and if they're allowed free reign, trying to expand their influence and make more worlds into their own. This is where shallow abysses can come in. A shallow abyss is like a pocket dimension. One that, at the center of it, is a demon core. If you find the demon core and destroy it, you can get abyss shards, which can be useful. You can also completely destroy that shallow abyss. And a big reason why these shallow abysses are present is because, well, people were fucking around with during the Magic Civilization period with demons. That's what led to the downfall of that era. We've talked about that. But on the north end of the map of Alflame is a giant shallow abyss called the Wall of Abyss. It's been held in place for the longest time, but smaller abysses sometimes pop up throughout the continent. So it is one of those things where safer is not necessarily safe, and sometimes people are born in a shallow abyss. This is where you get the Abyssborn race. Which you guys already saw. And for the sake of keeping everyone on track, I'm gonna put up a map of Allflame that we have. This map is also the one that's used in the thumbnail for this video. A lot of the setting expansions for 2.5 will have these kind of maps. But
That
check
is a
the
very
side
pretty map.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very pretty map.
Yep.
It is a nice map.
So let me have it on I'm gonna have that map on a separate tab on my end so I can keep track of certain things. Give me one moment. There we go. So the Shallow Abyss issue, as well as several other things, is why this place is called the Land of Curses and Blessings. Some of the threats that are in Terrassier are here as well, but they're not as present. Like Barbarous aren't as they're still a threat, but they're nowhere near as much of a threat as in, say, Terrastier, because there's bigger things to worry about. Now, Allflame is technically to the southwest of Terrastier. The main way to get there is by boat, and it takes about, and even with sailboats, I'd say it takes about a month and change to get from one continent to the other. In between the two continents is an archipelago, which I may get into one day. I do wish I had the expanded map that somebody made, but I can't seem to find that thing. So, I think the first place to start is going to be the Burlight region. Which, let me see. Burlight. Burlight is all the way to the south.
That is a lot of towns in just that small area.
Mm-hmm. Now, the Burlight region was introduced in Core Rulebooks 1 and 2, as well as getting its own natural history book. But one of the bigger books that I've used to represent the Burlight region is Start Guide Grinzale. Because the town of Grinzale, which is more of a city than a town, can act as a very good starting sandbox to illustrate what kind of setting Sword World is. Now, the main thing that it is defined by is the Digad Mountains that go from north to south, which divide it into the marine-rich south, the wetland east, and the wilderness-filled west. Because it's on a southern side of things, it does have a lot of warm southern sea breezes and 4 seasons. Grinzale is one of the big territories. It's also called the Land of Adventure, especially given the fact that within that kingdom is a massive sword labyrinth. Now, sword labyrinths are a kind of dungeon/maze that are formed by a magic sword. Oftentimes, the sword within it can be pulled out and taken. Other times, no. But the labyrinths are made as a kind of defense mechanism for the sword. The sword makes those areas. But in addition, in Burlight, you have the Rahaja Empire, which is a desert-based empire, the Principality of Uses, which is a magic-intensive region, and within the mountains, there are issues of monsters and, of course, barbarous, because the mountains are rich in manatite, as well as a few shallow abysses that show up. Sometimes these shallow abysses are heralded by the appearance of an aurora. Hence one of its nicknames, the Land of Myriad Colors. There's also the floating island of Sandokia, and the Ward of Magic Giant, a lawless area. So, within just the Burlight region, you've got quite the variety you can mess around with.
I mean, we do need a starter zone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Although I'd say even at high levels, there's still a lot you could do. And when we do get to the Burlight region in broader senses, I will also showcase the map. But it does make me smile that there's a frequent amount of floating islands in Raxia.
But hey, why not?
But
I mean, like floating islands have always been a big staple of a lot of fantasies, especially it's like post, like big empire fell and they understood magic or had better technology, and how everybody just is trying to figure out how they did that while literally living in their rooms sometimes.
And floating islands isn't necessarily restricted to just fantasy. I remember how there was an episode of Beast Wars that actually touched upon that as well.
So then we have the Dordan region, which is all the way to the north. It's the second closest to the Wall of Abyss. Dordan also has its own map. It was detailed in Core Rulebook 2, as well as the natural history of Dordan and Kingsfall, the city of railroads, which, like I said, magic trains are a big damn deal, and Kingsfall, they are the biggest damn deal. Kingsfall looks like a Wild Arms city more than anything else, with a little bit of Midgar thrown in. I say a little bit because of the way the city of Kingsfall is laid out. Very much has the vibe of Midgar with its very circular design. And,
I mean, with a name like Kingsfall, I can't help but wonder what happened there.
Which is something we'll get into in the future, but let me show you guys what Kingsfall looks like so you can kind of see what I mean. I don't know if they were inspired by Final Fantasy VII, but if they told me they were, I would just nod and say yes. Yes, that makes sense.
It's one of those big round cities, and then you have like a train station on the side of the wall.
Like
that is
map.
very.
It's not a 1-to-1, obviously, but you can kind of see what I mean.
I mean, when you want to build a city, why not to effectively draw a circle and try to use every square inch of it?
But Dordan is considered the birthplace of railroads, as they're known in Raxia, and a major hub of revival of Magitech. You have the Great Luana Lake in the south, to the Fenorian Prairie in the east, which is a very temperate prairie, and the massive peaks of the Northern Fang Mountains to the north, the peaks going about 8,000 meters.
That's a lot of meatloaf.
Indeed.
That is enough to rival Meat Mountain. And just as a bit of a bit of comparison. Um, the base camps for Mount Everest are at about 5,000 meters. And the highest point elevation for Mount Everest is 8.8 thousand meters. So we effectively have a whole mountain range the size of Mount Everest.
Well, if you ever want to burn some calories, you could always try to climb it up and down a bit.
Which it'd probably be tempting for somebody to climb it, but also keep in mind the death count that Mount Everest and K2 have, especially K2.
And both those places don't have magical creatures that will gladly eat you.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. But Dordan is primarily dominated by the Kingsley Republic. And of course, the Kingsley Republic, their capital is Kingsfall. There are a few other powers like the Magnoa Steppe Country, the Orphid Lake Country, or Gorkensburg, which is a fortified entryway to the east. And despite being a massive economic hub, the region does have issues of Barbarous inhabiting the Great Rift of Hithdur, and the high frequency of shallow abysses that draw adventurers. But it is considered a place of humanoid resilience, where interregional trade and martial schools flourish alongside ghosts of the Magitech era. And yeah, obviously Magitech is a big damn deal in Kingsfall.
I mean, there's with such a high demand, there's also plenty of adventurers as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But then we have the Ursula region. No, don't worry. There are no poor, unfortunate souls here. Ursula is directly to the west, across the Inlet Sea, and a little bit further away from Zamaska, which is further to the north. Ursula was detailed in Core Rulebook 3, and then further detailed in books like Constellation of Colonies Sire Code, which is a whole floating archipelago that I'm really looking forward to getting into when we get the chance. As well as the Natural History of Ursula and a anthology novel called Our Travels in Allflame. Now, this particular region, as I mentioned, does have Sire Code as a chain of islands at varying heights, which is why they're not on this map. And let me see. I want to see if and the Ursula region, in the northernmost parts of the east, is a cold country defined by the central Tamir Mountains and the Sèvres Forest. There's not as much as compared to Dordan. There's not nearly as much Magitech. It tends to have an atmosphere rooted in the magic civilization period, and has a lot of ties to Asteria, the goddess of fairies, and Kiliha, the god of wisdom. And it does have a continental shield where nations like the Sukbar Kingdom of the Holy Iron Chain and the nomadic Eirtog Mounted Kingdom maintain vigilance against demonic incursions. especially because of the Zamaska region, which I'll get to in a minute. But they're so magic favoring that one of the bigger political territories is the Fairy Kingdom Federation of Volf, a collection of Elven and Meria clans focused on protecting the Fairy Queen. There's also the Haroon Magical Research Kingdom, which I'll give you one guess as to what they're good at. It is a neutral sanctuary for arcane study and the Magician's Guild. It does have its harsher climates, especially given the constant threats from the Abyss Sea, but it is a place that can be best described as a natural beauty. Though because of the fact that it has deep forests and a lot of permafrost, I keep thinking, would I find my people there? And if someone's curious about the region in more detail, I'd say the book to start would be Natural History of Ursula. The other books are nice, but they're their own thing. And obviously, if you're going through the core rulebook, if you've got core rulebook 3, you'll have something on the Ursula region. But before I get to the Zamsaka region, which is the one directly to the north, I need to step away for one moment, so I will hit the BRB. are back, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about the brief stepping aside. I try not to do that kind of thing, but sometimes it has to be done. But as mentioned, a bit to the north is the Zamsaka region. In fact, it's right at the edge of the coast. This region is also focused on in the Natural History of Ursula book, as well as Bravenest, which I don't think Bravenest has been. If Bravenest has been translated already, I must have missed it. I don't think I have that one. But the Zamsaka region is a cold, desolate peninsula that's at the northernmost end of Allframe. A long time ago, this was where the Kingdom of Rusia stood, which was a heroic shield against the Abyss for 3,000 years. And then the DT happened. And the kingdom was overrun by demons after they broke through the wall of the Abyss. Ever since, it has been a demon-controlled territory, filled with ruins, run-down villages. Some believe it's ruled by the former court magician Zagan, who supposedly made a pact to become a demon king. The remaining humans in the area live under terrible conditions as slaves or as sacrifices for demonologists, while the Sukbar Duchy of the Holy Iron Chain maintains a militarized border to the south of it, holding on to hopefully recapturing their homeland one day, which would make it an ideal region to do a Deus Vult style campaign.
Or at the very least, you could probably be this setting's Doomslayer.
Although my campaign already has a Doomslayer in Arya. She was the one person who didn't come back after the Magic Railroad campaign because the worst thing happened. She got stuck in the demon realm.
I mean, is it bad for her or bad for the demon?
More the latter. Especially since here's something that you need to keep in mind when it comes to demons in Sword World. The ones that show up on Raxia are just projections of their real selves in the demon realm. So if you kill their body in Raxia, no big deal. It'll just fade away, and then they may come back in a few years. However, if they end up getting killed in the demon realm, they are dead.
Kind of reminds me of like the demons and devils in the Unnamed RPG, where if they're in the material world, yeah, like you just said, they're fine. But if you go to the Nine Hells or the Abyss, you can kill them there.
Mm-hmm. And I do remember that there was a replay that explored the idea of using the demon realm to cross between the 1.0 and 2.0 universes, and there's always been this heavy implication that the Grass Runners crossed over into both. Now, as far as how they did that is left up in the air. But next up, we have the Korgana region. This is one of the other more famous ones. Korgana is all the way up to the north, right up against the Wall of the Abyss. The Demon's Line and Vice City campaigns take place in this region, and it is detailed in Core Rulebook 3. But Korgana is a primary gateway to the Abyss, making it a very, very dangerous place. The big thing it's defined by is a massive wall that reaches thousands of kilometers, known as the Wall of the Abyss, to contain the overflowing amount of demons because of the massive shallow abyss to the north. It is always cold. You can have snowfall even in summer, but it does have grasslands, forest, and a few volcanic mountains. And unsurprisingly, some of those volcanic mountains you can find dark dwarves. Because remember, dwarves are fireproof. There was also
we did cover that.
Yeah, there's also a Adventurers Guild headquarters there that started out with the Keepers of the Wall, a organization that, well, it's kind of in the name. But that northern wall is constantly at war with demons, in a way that to me personally reminds me of, say, the Caillou Wall to the south in Rokugan, as well as the Northern Wall in Game of Thrones if it was written by somebody other than George Martin.
That would be a pretty low bar.
Yeah. You want to know why House of the Dragon turned out so good? He didn't write it.
Yeah, it's almost as if like he only had a couple of good books once, and that's been his entire career since.
And I know some might say, oh, but he helped out with Elden Ring. Yeah, helped out. And even he doesn't seem to have a high opinion of his contributions. Probably because he was on a short leash. But I do have a map of Korgana. Let me see if I can share it with you guys. Give me a second. This is now I have to specify, this is a map of the northwestern part of Korgana. But you can kind of see the kind of environments that are present. And as far as a scale representative of the Wall of the Abyss and other media, maybe the wall that you have to pass through in order to get to the New World would be an example. You know, the red line.
Mm-hmm.
Because the red line just goes on and it never ends.
I'm definitely seeing all the railroads, how it's all interconnected.
Mm-hmm. But a little bit towards the middle, east of Aurlame, and right in between the big crack in the middle of the continent is the Randor region. This region hasn't had its own source book dedicated, but it has been brought up in things like Duo Adventure, which is, as far as an attempt to do a solo/duet module, Duo Adventure is unique. And I will get to it eventually. But it's also been detailed in things like Barbarous King's Brand and Our Travels in Allflame. But since the DT, this has been one of the more dangerous areas due to constant warfare between the humanoid nations that have been fractured, the active barbarous strongholds, and a growing empire of undead. It also has a pirate problem and a shallow abyss problem.
That's a lot of problems.
Mm-mm. And yet, it is one of the hubs of the Haushika Commercial Union, which is a neutral power that manages trade between the east and western side of Allflame. It also has the Kingdom of Saphir, a nation famous for its volcanic hot springs and mountain goat mounts.
Because, of course, you need to have hot springs in a Japanese-made world.
Well, that and hot springs are going to be fairly common in any area that has active volcanoes. I know there's plenty of hot spring-like areas in, say, Iceland.
Mhm.
Because of the fact that that place has its fair share of active volcanoes, hence it's named the Land of Fire and Ice. I'd love to go there one day. But there are also a handful of independent coastal settlements. Pibian is one of them. But most travelers avoid this area unless they're accompanied by armed escort, because it is probably one of the more chaotic regions because you constantly have people fighting each other. So, best to avoid it if you don't want to get caught in the crossfire. But then we have the Orelm region, which is just to the southwest of Randor. Now, Orelm was detailed in Griffin Road, in Swords, Wilderness, and Vagrants. For the record, a Vagrant is an adventurer who is independent from the Adventurers Guild. Which is treated kind of like a owner-driver in NASCAR. You have a lot of autonomy, but you also don't have a lot of protection.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have to front a lot of the costs yourself. And of course, the Travels in Allflame book also has some stuff on the Orelm region. So, the main part of this territory is the Great Plains, which cycle from lush green to parched wilderness, and then to heavy snow. It is often called the Golden Wilderness, and was once the heart of the Golden Utopia region, led by a wizard king, Midrius. Its capital, Dredia, and 9 magical treasures remain the focus of countless legends and treasure hunters. I believe those 9 treasures were detailed in, I think, in at least one book. I'd have to double check. I'd have to double check. So unless I'm mistaken. Because I think it was detailed in either a replay or no, it isn't one of the replays that I have. And the thing that's become kind of tricky is that some replays also have rule data in them. But I could have swore I saw Griffin Road in here.
I think I complained about this before. I like the idea of the live plays. I don't like the idea of them having special rules that you can only find in the live play.
So I guess I was wrong. But this particular in addition to that, the region is very lawless and independent. This is a Wild West where you have a lot of vagrants more than traditional adventurers, especially in places like Huma, a railway city run by the Ruins Guild. The Ruins Guilds are criminals. There's also a railway city, and a few other nations, like the Martinus Solar Kingdom in the north, which uses ancient relics to control the weather. The Dukedom of Goldrun, a city-state carved into a canyon. The gambling city of Vezraga, and the twin ports of Aria and of Aria and Aria. A couple letters were switched, so they kind of become a bit tricky to look at. The twin ports manage trade alongside the Gord Big River, but I do remember going through Swords, Wilderness, and Vagrants, and one of the big vibes I got was that it was an attempt to do a kind of Old West frontier town, lawless land approach in Sword World. Which I can give credit for that kind of thing. But that's always the vibe I've gotten from that particular area. And I do think there's underrated potential for doing that kind of Old West wasteland approach in fantasy.
I mean, it's not as if we don't already have guns, so...
But then we have the Ganut region, which, let me see. Okay, it's not this. Let's see, where is... yes, I believe Ganut is further to the west. This was detailed in Duo Adventure, Barbarous King's Brand, and Our Travels in Alfheim. It is divided between two primary islands. The land of fairies and spirits, also known as Krasdanar, where you have a kind of self-rule among fortress cities, and the southern island, Ilsan, that is ruled by warring barbarous lords. During the Magitech civilization period, this was known as the Ganut Federation Fairy State, but the DT caused the place to collapse, and its people enduring constant conflict and frequent appearance of shallow abysses. And the emergence of the Shallow Abyss Empire has made things even worse, particularly at Garrigan Beach, where there's a abyssal incursion. Which, things are bad when an incursion forces humanoids and barbarous to declare a truce.
Yeah.
It's not as if the enemy of my enemy is my ally is not unprecedented.
Mm-hmm. But the Kirkusnak archipelago within the region is a neutral zone where you have races intermingling under the watchful eye of an ancient fire dragon, Stravagalt.
If I'm not mistaken, dragons are a big thing in the Sword World, right?
Yeah, they are the big swinging dick when it comes to the pecking order of mythical beasts. And I'd say having a fire dragon watch over a particular area is a good reason to not have too much infighting.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh. And the idea of a region being overseen by a dragon, but one who's not trying to be a traditional tyrant, just burning down villages because he can, is a setup that I like. I'm suddenly reminded of Dunkelzan in Shadowrun, which I have said many times that would have been the weirdest presidential debate ever, when you have to argue with a fucking dragon. A dragon who is quite the conversationalist.
I mean, like,
I'm trying to
Go on, Ace.
remember Shadowrun lore. Didn't he, like, one of the first things he did when he showed up, he possessed 3 people in a row to speak through them, and the only reason he swapped out was because they kept passing out?
Yes. Because
I mean,
he felt if he
technically-
just came up to the press and started talking, they'd freak out. Which, he was right.
like, let's be frank, it'd be pretty hard to keep your nerve up when you're effectively within biting distance of a dragon.
Well, even you don't mess with them because a lot of them are bigger than you.
Oh yeah, like the dragons in Shadowrun are massive creatures.
Exactly, like I said, biting distance, you just need to move their neck and now you're a snack.
Also, there's the age-old rule in Shadowrunning: never cut a deal with a dragon. I've often added, because you are crunchy and taste good with ketchup.
Yeah.
And now let's be frank, you pretty much bring your own ketchup. We just called it blood.
Mm-hmm. Oh. It's just thinner than normal ketchup, so it's sugar-free ketchup. Yeah, I'm going there.
And that's a bit.
Oh. You know, it's kind of like vegan cooking. Or British cooking.
Would that be an insult to vegans?
Yes? Which is why I did it. Oh. Like, I like vegetarian cooking. And by that I mean cooking vegetarians.
I mean, like, hey, if you eat grass, if you eat the grass, you gotta taste like beef, right?
Mm-hmm. But then to the western side of Alframe, we have the Nosterna region. One that is right in the middle of of the sea connecting the northern and southern parts. And because of the way it's set up on the map, I keep thinking that it's a massive city built on a bridge. I know it technically isn't, but come on. But this is a very hilly territory on the western side of Alframe, positioned on the northern side of the Eldius Sea, and separated from the Dordan region by the Blazed Mountain Range. Or not Blazed, Balzed. This region did really well for itself during the Magitech Civilization period as a strategic hub and a bit of a tourist trap. The region's only been detailed in our travels in Alframe. It was also a great place for engineering, where you could make luxury mana bike cars and mana bikes at high-end workshops. But its biggest feature was the Great Wazel Bridge, one of the largest structures on not on the continent, but in the world, and supported the bridge country of Wazel, a unique nation where the residents live among the bridge piers. Obviously, that prosperity didn't last when the DT happened.
Because, of course not.
And there have been recent efforts to rebuild railway lines used to connect the region, but it is a work in progress. And it is a point of contact between the north and south of the continent. Mostly done by the Divine Railway Corps. who the Divine Railway Corps are a church that worships Strasford, the god of railroads.
Choo choo.
And because it is a god in Sword World, Strasford has his own specialized spell list. Which makes me smile knowing that. Like, they have a god of railroads, and he even has railroad themed spells. And just as a point of reference, his level 2 Strasford's level 2 spell is Grease.
Of course, of course.
All it does is just smooth the movement of wheeled vehicles. So they
Oh,
can
so it is just grease. I was about to make the joke where it's like, is it like a grease gun the spell? It's like, nope, it is just the grease gun the spell.
Mm-mm. Or you have spells like Drive Away, which, when I hear Drive Away, I keep thinking that the spell is pitched to me by Billy Mays.
Hold on. Great character for a cleric. Just be like Billy Mays as a cleric.
I'd say Billy Mays as a cleric who has multicasting for no other reason than when he casts a spell he can say, "But I'm not done yet."
But wait, there's more.
But Drive Away simply puts a penalty to evasion or willpower each time they do a check, up to -4, which -4 on 2d6 is a pretty nasty effect.
Indeed.
But there's also Bless the Wall. Or not Bless the Wall, Blast the Wall, where you destroy a wall up to 50 centimeters thick, regardless of what it's made of.
So anyway, I just started blasting.
Oh,
Just be careful you don't use that on the wall separating the abyss from the rest of the world.
well, it's gotta.
Should have been thicker.
It's up to 50 centimeters thick.
Right, even if it can resist it, I sincerely doubt the folks there would appreciate the attempt.
Probably not, and you'd probably get introduced to a Goodfellas style welcome.
Indeed.
Also known as the Vancouver coping mechanism. No, Vancouver, I will not let you live it down that you rioted over losing the Stanley Cup twice.
Yeah, that's we're never going to ever let them live it down.
I'm also not letting you live down some of those ugly ass uniforms you guys had over the years.
Vancouver? Oh yeah, they deserve to get mocked.
You ever see the old brown uniforms they had in the 70s and 80s?
Mildra, I'm older than you. What do you think?
Do not quote me the old texts. Yeah. I was there when they were written.
It could be worse. You could have that one Blues jersey that was only made as a prototype and was never actually used.
At least they had sense to just leave it at the prototype stage.
Yeah, I will have to show you guys that particular jersey, because it was bad. Like, yeah, it never got used, but the fact that it was even considered, or if I want to be especially cruel, the Buffa Slug.
What is that?
Oh god.
The
Yeah.
Buffa Slug was the Buffalo Sabres logo for one of their old uniforms and was memed to hell and back pretty much immediately.
I mean, with the name like that,
Uh, like at least the guy who designed it owned up to the fact that it was ugly as hell.
That's definitely
Also-
worthy of some respect.
Yep. Also, hi bots, bye bots. You got two that showed up and got nuked immediately, but I just put in the side chat for you guys that uniform.
looks like a legally distinct Pikachu.
More like if a Pikachu and a Taurus had a baby.
Yeah. There's been some ugly ones. I will do a thing going into some of them. But anyway, the next region is the Leandar Archipelago, which this was detailed in things like Infinite Coliseum, Ambrosio's 100 Labyrinths, the Valley of the Throne Raiders, Tyrant's Crypts, and Solag. This is a archipelago that's west of the city of Solag. For about 3,000 years, this place was concealed by a barrier created at the end of the ancient magic civilization. Recently, it was reopened. It is believed to house the tomb of the Wizard King Leandar, alongside plenty of other Wizard Kings, their relatives, and retainers. It's defined by its extreme diversity. The islands were physically transformed by magic or eccentricities of their rulers, including the beast-filled jungles of Surway, the volcanic forges of Flameberg, the pyrite forests of Palia, and the crystal-laden geode mountains of Garmezo. The archipelago has become the premier destination for throne raiders and plunderers guilds seeking ancient treasures and arcane texts, though the boundary mist continues to make exploration in the area very dangerous and life-threatening.
And I think the DT fucked it all up even worse.
It was already fucked because of the screwing around by the Wizard Kings there. It was already screwed over before the DT happened, and during the end of the ancient magic period, a barrier was put up that pretty much made the city all but unreachable. It's just a archipelago that's filled with ancient tombs of Wizard Kings, which of course is going to make a very tempting target for adventurers. But you know how it is when it comes to raiding tombs. We've all been there.
Yeah. It's not as if we could just go in there with a bunch of Desert Eagles and clear the place.
Ha! But then we have the Erg region, which has only been detailed in our travels in Allflame. This was in the southwestern part of Allflame, and northeast of Burlight. It has, and it is on the map, but it's been a wealthy, resource-rich area during the Magitek era, renowned for Mako Stone deposits, which, remember, Mako Stones are used as a kind of magic battery. Those stones would be exported throughout the continent via sea routes. But a defining feature was the city of Naras in the Orlantrex Sea, a Magitek metropolis and symbol of Erge's prosperity. It floated on the surface using a gigantic Mako charge crystal. During the DT, the mainland region suffered massive damage from barbarous attacks, but Naras survived by submerging underwater to drift safely away from the main offensive. Nowadays, the region is this contrast of the ruined industrial mainland and its self-sufficient underwater city, which has become a unique, small world where humans, elves, and mermen coexist.
I'm resistant the attempt to make another My Little Mermaid joke.
Nope. Instead, I'm gonna say this is where Kida lives. Because way too many people disrespect the Atlantis movie.
Indeed.
Oh. But then we have the Madel region. This is on the western side of the Elframe continent, at the northeast of Nosturma. And this particular place is known for its mountainous terrain, a lot of vigorous barbarous activity, which has hindered its development. And there is travel and cultural exchange between Mideel and Nosturna because of the constant threat of Barbarous and the geological barriers. There's not enough leeway to actually get any headway in terms of making the region prosperous. And then there's the Misria region, which is in western central Allframe. Misria is detailed in books like At the City Where Magitech Reigns, Visego, the Machinefall Tower. There's probably going to be more detailing this area. It is a desolate territory, marked by the transformation of a lush landscape into a resource-depleted industrial wasteland. Its most defining feature is the 6 giant towers aiming for the heavens. A brazen construction project attempted to reach the gods that was halted by the DT. One of the original 7 towers was destroyed in the process. And now the remaining populations have formed the Tower City Alliance among these massive structures. The central kingdom of Visego is one of them. It's sustained by a constant rain of Magitech components and ancient debris from above. Life in this region is defined by a unique scavenger culture of machine fishers and junk rebuilding artificers, who also have to contend with a smoke-like colossus known as the Titan. It shows up randomly to drop high-performance parts while generating destructive, hazardous whirlwinds. And despite that environment and the scarce water, it's positioned to become a vital continental trade hub through the ongoing restoration of the Transversal Railway. Because much like how you had the Continental Railroad in the US, there are plans within the Allframe continent to make a railway network that covers the entirety of the continent.
Not just the US, but we also got a railway that crosses all of Canada east to west.
I'd imagine that took longer because of a larger amount of territory to go through, and also you have to get the permission from the true rulers of Canada.
Well, that and there's also the Canadian Rockies.
Yeah, that is going to be a problem. I was talking about the moose. And the bears.
It's not just the moose, it's also the goose as well.
Yeah. I remember having some back and forth about swans about whether or not they were cute, and I'm like, no, swans are assholes.
They taste good though.
Probably, but so does haggis.
And
that is fair. At least you're not an overdressed haggis.
Nope.
True.
Now, I know we didn't go into too much detail with each, and that's mainly because I'm saving that detail for later. I do find it amusing that each of the maps within Allframe that we have, and also I'm glad for the fact that we actually have proper maps in color, but each of them has a "Here be dragons" moment on the imagery, which amuses the hell out of me.
I mean, you gotta remind everyone that they're still the top dog, or rather, dragon in this case.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's a very good way to remind folks that yes, there's a lot of risks when it comes to adventuring, even if there are a lot of rewards. But before we do the wrap up and what's going to be happening in the next few days, what do you guys think of the continent of Allflame compared to Terrastier?
Well, I'm definitely seeing how the group S&D effectively consolidated their experience with their previous world buildings with 1.0 and 2.0, and they effectively created a sub-band that is, I would say, smaller, but definitely easier to digest right off the bat.
I could see it. And what about you, eh?
It kind of reminds me of, I'm pretty sure the people at Nat 19 saw this and kind of had it inspired for their world, where, like in the very beginning, it's like normal fantasy, and now they have a lot more sci-fi elements in it, and it's something that's really nice. You could potentially have like a campaign starting in like the very beginning before like the railroad network, and then at the end of it, like the railroads like just starting to take off, and then the next campaign kind of be like the repercussions of that, be like, hey guys, you remember like the 5 sessions we had to do to go from point A to point B? Now it's just now like and now it's just like maybe half a session of us just being on a train.
Mm-hmm. And personally speaking, I know some would. I have been accused of being a hypocrite because I've been harsh on using teleport spells in fantasy games, but I'm perfectly fine with a train that can get you from one place to another easily. A big reason I don't see it as a hypocrisy is even with the fact that trains are going to move faster than the old-fashioned route, that doesn't mean you're safe. It also is not instant, and the GM can still put things in your way to make your life interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
And I know it'd be tempting to bring up some of the trains that you see in Final Fantasy VII, but to be honest, I felt trains made a bigger impact on Disc 1 in Final Fantasy VIII.
That brings back memories.
Especially in places like Dole and Timber. Especially Timber. And especially the first job you're doing for the Owls, where you're doing a diversion transfer to basically pull the Great Train Robbery. And there's also the fact that for me, a train car is an ideal way to set up a combat scene that's one giant reference to the hallway scene in Old Boy. Which if you haven't seen that scene, go fix that. If you can watch the full movie, do that. Just stay away from the remake that Spike Lee made. Because that was not good. Also had some weird decisions, but that's another story. And when it comes to this setting, one of the big things that I did kind of notice is instead of having whole barbarous controlled territories, the Barbarous are more in individual tribes, sort of roving marauders rather than the more organized territories you saw in Terrastier. I think a big part of that is the idea of a barbarous nation is something that is always going to be doomed to not last. Because because it lives and dies on having a strong leader at the top. When you don't have that, it will inevitably descend into infighting. Especially because it doesn't have a proper succession plan.
And considering this is effectively Shallow Abyss with its main base of operation, now often off a barbarous leader of a skill is much easier.
The presence of Shallow Abysses and the fact that they can show up in various sizes anywhere at any time, I'd say it makes for a bigger constant threat than barbarous incursions. Not that they don't happen, there's just not as much of an emphasis on them happening. Which is perfectly fine because the human barbarous conflict was a major part of Terrastier. And if we're going to throw in Shallow Abysses, having a barbarous controlled region would kind of be a stretch. Now, I didn't cover the Keldon continent to the south because that's kind of in the same position as Razeldon is in Terrastier, in the sense that it is a blank slate to inhabit. You know, kind of like what Farland was in the 1.0 era.
Mm-hmm.
It is kind of funny that Swordworld has done that kind of thing 3 times now. Of have a place specifically for if you want to run your own setting stuff, but still have it be within Swordworld.
Our very own sandbox.
Mm-hmm. Which is also why I laugh whenever somebody goes, "Oh, I don't use the default setting. I make my own." Like, do you really have your own? Yes, there are some people who have their own full world that they use. But those people, honestly, are rare unicorns. Most people who claim they have a full setting just have a few bullet points at best. That's not a criticism, it's just an observation. And with that said, when we get back to this in about a week, I was almost going to say 2 weeks, but then I remembered, oh right, we're back to weekly. We're going to be diving back into the crunch end of things, and we are going head first, balls deep, into the magic system.
Oh, boy.
Oh. Is this going to be a 4+ hour show?
I don't think it will, but we're going to be covering magic and magic adjacent systems.
Alright, I'm going to have to load up on some liquid caffeine for that show then.
Mm-hmm. I still have my the stash that I set aside for New Japan shows that I haven't dipped too much into because I wasn't able to catch all of Dominion until after the fact. And if I'm catching it after the fact, I don't need the caffeine. I only need that for when I'm watching the shows live because, again, the shows are at like 1 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that for everything New Japan, but I can do it for a few shows at least.
Yeah, I don't try to watch those shows live today. I pretty much just waited for it to show up over at the websites.
Mhm. But like I said, that is going to do it for this episode. And we will be back next week, and I will have a few other things coming on the horizon, including the fact that old friend of the show, Brendan Davis, will be making a visit. I know interviews are one of the big things that I do, and I haven't done them as much, but it's more of after I hit the 1,000 mark, I wanted to try and expand to do other things instead of just being a one-trick pony, which is something I've always done.
You're not a pony, you're a monk.
Yep. And I do know that sometime next week, I'm not entirely sure when, we are going to make an attempt at reacting to a couple videos. Namely, the two videos that served as the impetus for this particular experiment over the last 8 months. And initially, the plan that I had was I'd start the 2.0 and 2.5 eras right around the time the official translation hit backer kit. Then that got delayed, so but I couldn't just hold off without knowing what the actual release date was. So I just went through with the plan. But I know that I'll end up doing that, and I don't do reaction videos all that often. Mostly because I feel if I'm going to do it, I'd rather do it on something where I can add to the conversation. But it is certainly something to consider in the future. It's not going to be in June because my schedule for the rest of June is completely packed. Which is unfortunate, but I don't want to overstuff it and then run myself into the ground again.
Better to pace yourself.
Indeed, and especially with summer coming, or it's already here.
Oh, you mean not winter? Got it.
Yeah, exactly. Not winter. Right.
But we'll be back next week, and I will be back tomorrow with a few things, including a double feature with Flame Scion covering 2 games. One of them is called My Father's Sword, and the other one is Overwar: The Night Comes Down. The latter is blatantly a tribute to Matsuno's work, especially Ogre Battle and Final Fantasy Tactics. And going with that subtitle, of course, well, you have to. If you're going to be channeling Matsuno, you need to make a Queen reference.
Mm-hmm.
This is the rule. But that's for later. That's for later on. I may be back later tonight. We'll see where things are at. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, may your adventures be grand and your treasures myriad. Stay frosty.
Later.
Catch y'all later.